Instant destruction in Gaza City this morning after an evacuation warning. No injuries reported this time. But this now the very place which Israel's security cabinet has agreed to take control of. The approved plan focuses very specifically here on the largest city in the enclave, home to hundreds of thousands of people. At the moment, daily life in Gaza City continues despite the rubble, despite everything. Some here say they'll refuse to move again, having returned to their homes after being displaced before. They are tired, they are scared, and they are exhausted.
Netanyahu's decision to occupy Gaza, there's nothing left to occupy in the first place. At this point, for the people, there's no difference anymore whether he occupies it or not.
It's shocking. Life had just started to move on. We'd begun to settle a bit in our places. We'd been living in tents for 5 months. Israel isn't killing Hamas. Israel is killing civilians, children, women.
In Israel, there is division right at the top. Before approving the takeover of Gaza City, the meeting of the Security Cabinet is said to have lasted all night and was heated. The military not on the same page as Netanyahu. Eyal Zamir, the Israeli Armed Forces Chief of Staff, has warned against the occupation of Gaza City, saying there would be catastrophic humanitarian consequences. 5 points have been approved by the Security Council with a majority vote, including Israeli security control in the Gaza Strip and the establishment of an alternative civil administration that's not Hamas or the Palestinian Authority.
We don't want to keep it. We want to have a security perimeter. We don't want to govern it.
Yesterday, Israel's Prime Minister said in an interview that he wants control to be transferred to Arab forces, but what that would actually look like is difficult to pinpoint. And put on social media today a video from hostages already released, saying the Israeli government's decision endangers those still captive and calling for more protests against it. Support on the streets of Israel already in tatters. In Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, protesters put themselves in chains and block the roads.
We want him to stop. We want to stop the war. We want to bring the hostages home, and we want to stop the suffering of the Gazan people. All we want is to end the war and peace.
The Israeli opposition leader also says that the plans are contrary to Israel's interests, saying there was no consideration for exhausted troops. And internationally, the UK's Prime Minister among those urging Israel to reconsider. In the south of Khan Yunis, there is no end to the grief. Families here say their loved ones were killed while seeking aid. The World Health Organization says last month 12,000 under fives had acute malnutrition, the highest monthly figure ever recorded. A German military aid drop this time to try to get supplies to the people who need it most. But there are no guarantees, nor for their future in parts of the Gaza Strip either. Well, Dr Burcu Ozcelik is a Senior Research Fellow for Middle East Security at the Royal United Services Institute. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, what do you make of Israel's approved plans?
Well, these plans have been telegraphed now for a number of days, and yet it still came as a surprise to many observers because it marks such a major escalation in Israel's conduct of the war in Gaza. There are still many unanswered questions as to when these plans might be put into operation, what it will entail in practical terms on the ground in Gaza City, which is the intended initial territory under which the IDF is expected to carry out the plan. This might expand into other areas of the Gaza Strip. What this will entail for the Palestinians currently residing in Gaza City, of course, and where they will go. So there are more questions at this point than there are answers, and a high level of uncertainty. And already we have seen grave, severe condemnation from the international community directed at this plan.
And many would also say this is a complete violation of international law as well.
That's right. It constitutes the expansion of the occupation of the Gaza Strip. It will contribute to the expansion of the humanitarian crisis there and the ongoing suffering of Palestinian civilians who are struggling amongst the rubble to access food and essential life supplies. And so there's many red flags, and which have merited, of course, condemnation from the legal community as a violation of international humanitarian law, particularly as Israel has been unable to define what the exit strategy is, where this all leads, and what the final the plan is for the conclusion of the war and the ceasefire, of course.
There also appears to be division right at the top, so specifically opposition from the Israeli military itself. So how difficult does that make it to even implement their plans?
That's a really good point, and I think it really bears emphasizing that this plan and its approval by the Security Cabinet has elicited a high level of criticism from domestic political opponents inside Israel, across Israeli civilians who are prioritizing, according to polling results, the conclusion of the war and, of course, the release of remaining Israeli hostages. There has been significant and top-level disagreement, dissent to the plan from IDF Chief of Staff. And so there is a great level of uncertainty as to why this plan has been approved and whether there will be a sufficient level of pushback now in the coming hours and days that might mean that the actual execution of the plan to occupy Gaza City in the first instance might be delayed or pushed back. I think we have seen already, because of the high level of disagreement at the top senior levels of the IDF, there are signs that there might be a desire to delay the actual execution of the plan. To what extent that might be successful, if at all, is an open question.
You already mentioned it, but where do people in Gaza City go? They've already been displaced before.
That's right, and this is of huge concern. The plan, as I understand it, from the Israeli point of view, is that civilians will be warned in advance of the operation and given an opportunity to move south, likely into what Israeli planners have called a humanitarian zone in Rafah. Of course, many have been already displaced from Gaza City. Some returned during the brief lull during the ceasefire period and have taken up temporary shelter under very hard conditions there. And so what this will mean in the coming days, weeks, if the plan goes ahead, I think for the Palestinians is of grave concern, and likely it's difficult to imagine how it will not lead to further displacement of tens of thousands of Palestinians from Gaza, and how they will go into places in the southern part of the Gaza Strip and what kind of future awaits them there.
Dr. Ozcelik from RUSI, thank you.
Thank you.